Christina and Paul had been married for 4 years. Recently, Christina had moved to a new job after feeling stuck in her previous position where opportunities for growth were limited and salary payments were often delayed. Her new job offered a much better working environment and promising opportunities. At first, Paul supported her decision to switch jobs. Despite her attachment to her former colleagues, she had made several new friends at her new workplace, too. However, Paul's contentment didn't last long. Within a month of starting her new role, Christina began staying late at the office. Initially, she extended her hours by just 30 minutes, but soon it grew to an hour and then 2 hours. Paul would pick her up after work, but he frequently found himself waiting for 30 to 40 minutes. Eventually, Christina insisted on returning home on her own. Concerned, Paul asked if she was getting paid for the extra hours she was putting in. Christina explained that it was typical for new employees to work overtime to earn the management's trust. She mentioned that the company used various software which took longer to navigate, especially as she was still learning. With no one else staying late, she had to finish her work alone without any interruptions. Reluctantly, Paul agreed. Understanding that Christina wanted to prove herself in her new role and build a long-term career there, Paul checked on her from time to time to make sure she wasn't overburdening herself. One evening, he called her, but she didn't pick up immediately. Concerned, he thought she might be away from her phone or busy and ended the call. About 10 minutes later, he tried again. This time, she answered, sounding cheerful. "You're running late, honey. When will you be home?" he asked. "Oh, I'm still at work finishing the last task. I'll be home soon," she replied. Just as she was about to hang up, he heard a strange beeping sound in the background. Something like an alarm or notification. Paul noticed it but brushed it off. Throughout the week, he occasionally heard the same sound during their calls, assuming it was just a computer notification. One day after work, Paul made plans to meet his old university friend Patrick at the mall. Patrick needed to pick up an item there and they planned to grab a meal afterward. When Paul arrived, he spotted Patrick coming out of the appliance repair store looking pleased. They greeted each other and Patrick exclaimed, "I finally got my smartwatch back. I felt lost without it all week." He began showing the watch to Paul as they sat down in a cafe. Suddenly, Paul heard the familiar beeping sound again. Surprised, he turned around to locate the source. "Oh, that's just my watch," Patrick said, chuckling. "You can use it to set reminders, too." He turned off the sound. And in that moment, Paul realized the sound he'd been hearing during his calls with Christina was identical. It puzzled him because Christina didn't own a smartwatch, and she had told him she was the only new hire in her office. Now, Paul couldn't shake the feeling that Christina might be hiding something from him. The next day, he decided to visit her workplace under a casual pretext to get a sense of the environment and meet the people she worked with. Paul took a day off and decided to visit Christina's office. As he approached her desk, they began to chat, but Paul quickly signaled her to stay silent as he heard the same familiar beep. Intrigued, he looked in the direction of the sound and noticed a man at a nearby desk glancing at his smartwatch before switching it off. Their eyes met and Paul realized he'd seen this man before. On the first day, he picked Christina up from work. He had noticed the same man stepping out of the office building for a smoke just as she got into the car. When Paul had asked her about him, she brushed it off, suggesting he was probably someone from a neighboring office. Now Paul realized that this man was in fact Christina's colleague. He watched as the man mingled with other employees near the break area, laughing and joking. Feeling unsettled, Paul was soon approached by one of Christina's coworkers, who with a teasing grin said, "Hey, so you're the new girl's husband. Lucky guy." Another coworker joined the conversation, making a remark that caught Paul's attention, escalating his suspicion. Then the first coworker casually mentioned that he'd be staying late to show Christina a new program, causing her to blush and look away. The situation quickly spiraled. Paul, his anger barely contained, confronted the man, and a heated argument turned physical. Other coworkers had to step in to break up the fight, eventually escorting Paul out of the office. Bruised and furious, he stormed out with Christina following him to the car, visibly upset and anxious. As she looked at his injured face and reached out to touch him, she found herself pushed back as Paul's voice, thick with anger, demanded, "Don't you dare tell me, did you betray me with him?" Tears welled up in Christina's eyes. Realizing she couldn't keep her secret any longer, she nodded, covering her face with her hands. "How could you?" Paul whispered, his voice filled with disappointment. "What did you think would happen?" Christina, sobbing, pleaded for forgiveness. But Paul couldn't contain his anger. He got into his car and drove away, leaving her standing alone in the parking lot. To his surprise, Christina showed up at their apartment later, begging for forgiveness. She promised to quit her job, suggested they start a family, and tried to rekindle their once strong bond. But Paul, his heart hardened by betrayal, dismissed her pleas coldly, ordering her to pack her things and leave. The next day, he filed for divorce. Christina moved in with her unmarried sister, trying to put the painful chapter behind her. She didn't expect to continue a relationship with her former lover, nor did she know that he had a reputation for short-term flings with new female employees who weren't likely to stay long. Haunted by regret and stress, Christina's performance at work suffered. Her mistakes became frequent, and after a major error with an important client, she was dismissed. It was a painful reminder of the fleeting nature of temptations that had led to such devastation. Choices between family and fleeting pleasure shape our destinies and affect countless lives. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.